Hold on. That can't be right. Well, I certainly was not expecting things to go this way. Usually I try to put something funny here, but, well, there's very little funny about the situation I find myself in right now. Now is there? Developed by White Rabbit and published by Adult Swim Games, this caught my eye early on. Slow, methodical combat RPGs are in vogue right now, and one with some meatier story would make a nice bit of fresh air. To quote the Steam store page, Death's Gambit is a challenging 2D action platformer with deep RPG elements. As an agent of death bound to his service, unravel the mystery of Cyrodiil and discover the true price of immortality. But with a description like that, how could I possibly say no? I'm just puttering around at this point. This is not going to be pretty, my children. Every bit of what I just read is essentially the exact fucking opposite of what is on display in today's oddity. So let's quit dicking around and take a look at Death's Gambit. Starting off easy, this game is beautiful. It's soft-spoken and never suffers from being over-designed. The pixel-style artwork is consistent, even when larger models are used for dialogue. The aesthetic is never broken by the game, but the simplistic models of average-sized characters clashes pretty heavily with the highly detailed models, such as those from larger bosses or this lizard dude's axe. Like I said, it's never outright broken, but it creates a feeling of inconsistency in design, even if there isn't one to begin with. It's certainly never ugly, and even the goofiest ideas they could come up with are beautifully realized. Truly, the worst that can be said about the game's presentation is that it does hardly anything new, if ever. Every single environment in the game has a strong stench of been there, done that. Death's Gambit wears its inspirations on its sleeve, however, all they put on display was the sleeve. Entire environments will feel lifted from other games, not just in aesthetic, but in form and functionality, and almost never being as successful in application as the game it rips its ideas from. I encountered one area that seemed original, and it's painfully out of place. I can't tell whether it's a crashed spaceship or some ancient underground society or what the fuck ever. I never received an explanation, and the whole area just felt like a big, well, that happened. Why are there robots? Why are there guns? What the fuck is this, and how does it fit into the rest of the game? You're not going to explain it, are you, White Rabbit? If any part of the game feels out of place and breaks everything they crafted, it's this segment right here, and it brings me to my next point. I'm kind of tired of not being told the story. Make no mistake, we are presented with a story to play through. When it's not vague as shit, it's predictable as hell, with the twist being telegraphed pretty much from the goddamn start, and randomly sprinkled in when you die. But there's a gigantic world hidden here, and they take absolutely no time to tell the story of it. Remember that store description? As an agent of death bound to his service, unravel the mystery of Cyrodiil and discover the true price of immortality. Yeah, you don't do that. The mystery is never unraveled, we never discover the true price of immortality, any of it is barely hinted at, if ever at all. We're looking for our mommy, turns out she was the villain all along. Is Death a bad guy? I don't know, I got the glib ending and this game is such a mess that I gave up on the second playthrough, for reasons I will get into presently. Reason number one, the shitty, predictable story is unskippable. Make no mistake, the voice acting is far more than serviceable, it's pretty good at times, but for some reason the protagonist isn't voiced. He has dialogue, he's not a silent protagonist, he contains zero customization, so why the fuck isn't he voiced? Why can't I skip this stupid story shit without having to mash through dialogue? Reason number two! This game's mechanics are an absolute shit fuck. It wants to be a slow, methodical combat RPG, but stuffs the game full of fast-moving, farther-reaching enemies who run you down when they aren't sucking you in, breaking the methodology of the combat and completely fucking the stamina balance. Many enemies are straightforward and simple, but many more of the enemies and a big chunk of the bosses are confusing, poorly telegraphed, and more frustrating than actually challenging. And how about those RPG mechanics? Yeah, sure, it's got RPG elements. You level your stats, you improve your equipment, that's it. Back to our quote, Death's Gambit is a challenging 2D action platformer with deep RPG elements. Yeah, skin deep, if even that. It's got the most basic skill spread of any RPG game. Strength build, dex build, mage build with a smattering of stamina recovery and health to fill out how exactly you want to tackle it. The major problem is, you'll be constantly getting enough experience to level essentially every stat up to 15, with your combat stat going past 25, vitality at least to 25, and leaving at least one stat low. In the case of my first playthrough, a tank build, so intelligence was the dump stat. Started second playthrough, wanted to be a mage, well I obviously dumped strength. The so-called depth of the RPG mechanics starts and stops with which form of attack do you not want to use, and you only have to pick one. On top of the overly simplistic RPG mechanics, the game uses incredibly shitty input buffering. What's input buffering, you ask? Well, I'm glad you interrupted like an impatient little bastard with nothing better to do than disrupt the flow of the video. When I press the attack button, I can't do anything else until the attack finishes its recovery frames, or I've entered the frames that it can be cancelled by chaining attacks. If I push the attack button a second time before the attack enters its recovery frames, that input is sent into a queue, where as soon as those frames end, or can be cancelled for a chain, it then executes the input and I move on to the second attack of the combo. Many games will have windows as to when another input can be added, when it will be too early, too late, etc. Some games, especially the character action genre, will allow you to block or dodge cancel, but most games will keep very short buffers so you don't get too fucked. Not Death's Gambit, no siree! You see, our little game here uses an almost infinite buffer, meaning that when I'm going through my 3-hit combo with the greatsword, any attack or dodge input performed before the combo finishes will be performed at the next available opportunity, as long as I have the stamina to perform it. What this means is that if I rapidly mash the attack button 4 times before the first attack even finishes, I will perform the full 3-hit combo and then slowly start up a second combo, even though I pressed the 4th attack button nearly 5 whole seconds before the second attack even began. And this game does not feature the ability to dodge cancel. Add that to the fact that it wants to be a methodical combat game while enemies have speed and reach that goes against that design decision, and you have a recipe for disaster that feels like an absolute clusterfuck to play. It's not methodical, it's sluggish. It doesn't require intent and planning, it's just clumsy. And that's all before the 2D platforming is little more than the most simplistic level traversal ever. It lacks any semblance of difficulty and only serves as an incredibly easy navigation mechanic. Looks pretty, serves no real purpose. Major gigantic fuck off problem number 3, there's like 9 weapons. The hammer, greatsword, regular sword, fuck off death sword, spear-like weapon, dex sword, bow, a scythe for some reason, and magic. Each weapon kind of plays differently, but in the end, not really. It's all about whether you want to be fast or hit hard, or whether you want to do it from a slightly larger distance. And it's not just a small variety of movesets, there's literally no more variety than the things I named. There's one hammer, one greatsword. Follow the list to its logical conclusion. New equipment doesn't change how you look either. Nothing. It's bland. It's boring. And the final, world-ending, nobody likes me, everybody hates me, might as well tell this game to get fucked reason why this game isn't worth a second playthrough. It's short as fuck, and I was trying to explore everything I could. 7.5 hours for my incompetent ass, which means people with even a modicum more intelligence than me will find it to be about 5.5 to maybe 6 hours. 6 hours! With a complete lack of variety, a heinous lack of creativity, and a frustrating slog. $20 for a 6-hour RPG that can't even be asked to tell the story that the store promises to tell you. It's empty. You're an indie game. You have scripted, voice-acted segments. I shouldn't have to scour and scrape for the tiniest shreds of a story, especially when you have fucking robots in a fantasy setting. It's an infuriatingly frustrating failure on almost every front imaginable. It's a very fun colossal failure, but only once. I couldn't stand going through my second playthrough even though everything had become easier thanks to the acquired knowledge. Hell, I couldn't even stand starting up New Game Plus, which allows you to pick the level you want to start at. Glib mechanics that receive no explanation, much less any coherent way for the player to understand them, put up against enemies who traverse multiple screens going back and forth attacking the entire time and having the gall to ask you to be stuck with very little stamina and worse recovery, a story told that is boring and predictable, a story not told that could have been more interesting than anything they gave us, and of course, even though it's a single player game with absolutely zero multiplayer or online components, features no pause function. I'm a fucking adult. Sometimes when playing a single player game, I need to pause, and all of that is without mentioning the weird pauses and stutters it has sometimes when scrolling the screen. Just fuck off, Death's Gambit. For $20, is it worth at least the first playthrough? Fuck no. Wait for a sale, play through it once, forget you have it. I'm the TheNecroswanson, and you can go fuck yourselves. Wait, what's this? What's going on? Congratulations are in order, Necro, because you've made it through the entire video without doing the thing! Wait, really? Not even once? Not even once! How do you feel? I feel at peace. Well, that's just great, Necro. Do you have anything to say to the people at home that... What is he doing?
It looks like he's eating. Is that mochi? Where did he get mochi from?
So, what do we do here?
Looks like we're done here. Roll credits.
Today's episode of the Crypt Revue is brought to you by the letter F and Old Man Jenkins Discount Theme Park Rides. When you need a theme park ride just rickety enough to scare off pesky customers but not dangerous enough to kill anyone that's interfering with your plot to sell off the land, just call Old Man Jenkins. Good night, everybody.